Welcome back to Second Chapter Careers, the podcast where we have real conversations with people who have made real career pivots. I'm your host, Sari Holtz, and today I'm talking with Simon Gerstler. Simon studied economics, but quickly realized it wasn't for him when his summer job in college made him rethink his path and exposed him to the world of cold selling. Since then, Simon abandoned accounting and built a successful career in sales from the ground up. In this discussion, Simon talks about the character traits that make a good salesperson, the skills people can learn to up their sales game, and why he thinks that sales is one of the most enjoyable and lucrative careers out there. Let's jump right in. Hi, everyone. Let's jump right in. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks for having me on the show, Sari.
Thanks for being here. Let's start at the beginning. Tell me, what made you decide to study accounting?
Well, I studied economics at university, and it was sort of a natural fit. And I kind of stumbled into accounting, which is part of the issue why I changed, which was end of my second year at university. I planned to do a bit of travel, etc., like most people were doing in between the terms. And one of my friends there said, like, what are you doing for your summer job? I said, I haven't even thought about one. I said, what do you mean? I hadn't even thought about my career yet at that point. He said, if you want to get a good job after university, you've got to do a summer job. You've got to show some work experience. So I was like, oh, what should I do? He goes, well, good option is maybe you're doing an economics degree, maybe look at the accountancy option. So I kind of stumbled into it. It wasn't even part of the plan. And I did my summer internship there. And then they did a quick interview at the end and offered me a job on the spot. I thought, okay, great. I don't have to look for a job next year. Didn't think about it too much. It wasn't like proper accounting work. You know, they didn't want to trust us with too much stuff. I thought, yeah, it wasn't too bad. Might as well do it. And that was it.
And did you enjoy that summer experience?
The summer experience, they were trying to sell the company to us as well. I didn't realize that at the time. So it wasn't too intense. There was a lot of like group bonding, and there's even like a couple of team days out as well. So it wasn't really a taste of what I would be doing once the real job started. And I hadn't dug deep enough into what accounting was about to know that this wasn't a real taste.
So how did you get the real taste of what accounting is about?
So they threw me in at the deep end day one, joined, and they put me on the international tax team. And bear in mind, for your listeners, I don't even really like math. I wasn't particularly good at it at school. Didn't really enjoy it. Wasn't like, inspired by numbers, etc. But sort of like, okay, my family were like, yeah, you've got to take it. It was actually PwC. The job was at PwC, so it was a top tier firm by accounting standards. Sort of almost like I thought, okay, I might as well do this. And again, I was thrown in at the deep end. They had like one massive account in the confectionery space, and we just spent all our time on this one account. And I was just doing a small proportion of their international tax return.
Okay, well, I have to ask then, if you don't like math, why did you decide to study economics? Let's take that step back.
The truth is that the economics degree, I studied at the London School of Economics, and it was actually very flexible degree. So they called it, it was almost like an overarching degree. You got an economics degree, which is what I got, but I was doing a lot of like history courses and other courses, even a law course. It's just a bit of a quirky degree. So I did some economics on it, but I ended up veering away from the sort of economics and more towards the history side, actually.
Was that surprising for you?
I enjoyed history at school, so it was quite a natural fit. I really enjoyed that as a subject. I was winging it a bit. I hadn't really even researched university that hard. It was economics sounds like a good degree. And you're right, it was quite mathematical. So I steered well away from any of the mathematical options within economics and more sort of the business side wherever I could, which should have been a warning sign.
It's like so many young people I speak to, they're just like, okay, I'll go to college, I'll figure it out. And then, I like history. I can't really do anything with that. So you get thrown into the next best thing.
Correct.
Okay. So you're working at PwC, and then how did that develop?
Not very well, probably for either side. I wasn't a model employee just because I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I was out the door at 5:30 every day and probably getting ready to be out the door about 5 o'clock, shuffling my papers around and winding down. So I didn't leave at 20 to 6. I wanted to leave on the dot. So I realized very quickly that I wasn't enjoying it. Sort of like felt a little bit trapped. Like, I'd been to university, I'd done this degree and didn't really know what else to do at that point. So I was just sort of going through the motions that wasn't giving them very much, bare minimum to get by and keep the job at that point in time.
Hmm. And did you think that they were equally unsatisfied or they were chill with it?
Um, that's the thing. In a bigger company, you can get lost a little bit in a company for good or for bad. And I perfected the art of, and this isn't advice for anyone listening to the show in terms of like where I recommended a job, but because I wasn't enjoying it, I had some friends on other floors in the company. I perfected like carrying heavy boxes of files and always looking very busy. So no one was really giving me any work. And because it was such a big company, no one knew what I was doing. But he's the busy guy who's always running around looking busy and going between the floors and carrying stuff. Don't give him any more work. He looks like he's snowed under.
All right. So basically, you hated it.
I hated it. Yeah.
And how did you escape that? What was the next step that got you out of that accounting space?
So it was actually a bit of a freak, like a good luck freak, if you like, a serendipity type of experience. At one point in time, I wasn't doing the tax returns very well. I don't know what it was. I was nominated to do. They said a side project. They said, "Are you interested in a side project?" I said, "Is it tax related?" They said, "No." I said, "Yes, I'm very interested." And they said, "What we want you to do is, we're obviously a UK firm. We've got a big US office. We want you to target any firms in the UK that have got a US subsidiary, and there's thousands of them, and we're going to do like a massive event where we want to publicize that they can work across different jurisdictions within the company. Are you up for it?" I said, "Yeah, definitely." So it was very much, I mean, there's no coaching on that. It was cold calling, had a list of people to run through, and I had to, the drive was to push them towards this event. So I really enjoyed it, like just the cold calling, the challenge, how to engage people, how to drive people across the line, how to get the sign-ups. And actually, I wasn't leaving at 5:30 anymore. I wasn't staying till midnight, but I wasn't bored and I was enjoying it, and the days went much quicker. Probably about 4 to 6 weeks, I oversubscribed the event. It was a lot of fun doing it. And they said, "Thanks very much. Good job there. Back to your international tax return on this confectionery company." To which I said, "Don't think so." And without having given it much thought, it was a spur of the moment decision. I said, "Actually, I don't think I want to carry on anymore." I did, and I quit on the spot. I went in that morning, not knowing what I was doing that day. Maybe I was still going to be doing the cold calling. And by lunchtime, I was like, "I'm out of here. I don't want to carry on." And in those type of companies, you didn't stay and work notice. Within about an hour, I was gone. And I remember walking out thinking, "Yes, I've escaped," but also thinking, "Okay, what do I do next?"
Right. How old would you say you were around that time?
I think it's about 22, 23.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a luxury that young people have, that you can kind of like, be a little more spur of the moment when you're not worried
Yeah.
about a kids or a mortgage.
Correct. And to that point as well, I got a taste for sales. Even though it had been very niche within accounting, I thought, okay, this is something that I'm enjoying. I'm not enjoying the day to day, so possibly this is something I want to explore.
Okay, so that first of all, summer jobs are amazing for that because you either confirm you love something or you confirm you hate it, which is, by the way, also what happened to me. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I hate this.
Yeah.
So that's what closed the door on law for me, which made it a good experience just because I learned so much about what I don't want.
Yeah.
Um, so you get a taste for sales, you love it, and how did you make that shift from economics to sales? What happened next?
So just another chance. I don't necessarily believe in chance. I think everything happens for a reason.
Same.
And I was outside synagogue on a Friday night, talking to someone, and they were like, "Oh yeah, what are you up to now? I know you quit accounting." This is already. I've travelled in between. I was gone away for a few weeks. I wasn't desperate in a hurry to find a job maybe that week or anything. I had sent off a bunch of applications and didn't get anywhere with those because didn't have any sales experience. I was applying to a few sales jobs. And happened to say, "Well, I'm looking for a job in sales, but it's really hard because I haven't got experience and haven't got a break yet in my application." At which point, someone who was having another conversation, maybe few feet away, said, "Hang on a sec, did you say you're looking for a job in sales?" I said, "Yeah, correct." He said, "Well, I run a jewelry company. We sell pearls and other and associated items within the pearl space. Would you be interested in coming? We're looking for someone in sales. Would you be interested?" I said, "Yeah, fine." We sort of arranged to be in touch on the Sunday or the Monday, and I was offered the job a couple of days later.
Wow. Okay. And did you like that? It's a totally different type of thing selling retail versus
Yeah.
events.
So this is actually very interesting because a lot of people who now go into sales are a bit spoiled. They don't want to do the grunt work, the dirty work, if you like, which is what I had to do in those days. So I was really at the sort of old-fashioned knocking on door space. I
Wow.
would drag very heavy. It was a very heavy bag of jewelry because it had lots of different items and they all added up in weight. Put it over my shoulder. I used to have like a mark on my shoulder at the end of the day. And I
Wow.
would go to Manchester or Liverpool or Birmingham or wherever it was. And before the internet, I couldn't really map out who I was going to see in advance. And I'd head for the city centre and I would just look for jewellery shops. I'd look for outside the window. And this is actually a good sales prospecting tip anyway. I'd look outside the window in the window and see what items they had, see if they had items with pearls in them. If they did, great. That means that they were interested in them. If they didn't, great. It meant that they had a gap in the market where they could potentially work with my product. And then I would just buzz on the door, knock on the door, go in, introduce myself. And it was either I was out of there in 10 seconds or I was trying to talk my way into a sale.
Wow. First of all, I love that approach of like, if they do, then they're relevant. If they don't, then they're relevant. That's such a good
Yeah.
sales approach. I imagine you use that a lot today as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was such a good grounding. I was talking to someone today actually about how not skipping the steps. And even if you do a year of cold calling and the work that maybe isn't the most enjoyable part of sales, it's you learn so much. You learn the resilience, which is definitely what I learned. You learn how to engage people quickly when you don't get 5 minutes to plead your case, if you like. So it's a very good grounding that some people just want to skip now, and it's usually not a good idea to skip it. A lot of what I learned in those, it was 2 years actually. In those 2 years, I learned a lot, and I had no formal training. They pretty much said, "Okay, this is an earring, this is a necklace, off you go, good luck." It wasn't a big company and there wasn't a formal training program. And I had to learn on the job. I had to learn like what to say, how to establish myself in the market.
Okay, so I want to ask a bit of a sensitive question. I think a lot of the early sales days and probably also when you're more experienced, I worked in sales for years and I had this experience till the end, is the part of rejection. And here
Yeah.
you're painting this picture of, I loved it. It was amazing. I was either in for 10 seconds or in for an hour. How did you feel about rejection, especially in those early days? Was it ever hard for you, or like it was just part of the process and you have a thick skin by nature?
I don't necessarily have a thick skin by nature. I think it was part of the learning process. So there were times when I'd drive 3 or 4 hours away from London, and it might be raining. I mean, it was England, so it was raining a lot as well. It wasn't like that; it was sunny every day. So I'd be pounding the pavements, and definitely doing my 10,000 steps a day, just of all the walking around. And yeah, so sometimes it was frustrating. I mean, I remember a time when I'd booked a meeting with someone. Again, it was a road trip away. It was a probably 6 hour road trip. I turn up there and they said, "No, I don't remember booking a meeting with you." I said, "Well, oh, we did, and I'm here now." They go, "No, we're very busy. Thanks, but no thanks." And had to like, there was no one else to see there, and that was like a day wasted, for example. But one of the things I learned in that period was to completely detach myself from the outcome, unless I'm doing something to insult them or interpersonally, which was really putting them off. It's just they're not interested in that line of jewelry. It's not nothing personal, and I've carried that into any other job I've done. I didn't It's not personal. They're not rejecting me. They're rejecting the product, the market fit. It just doesn't fit in with what they want to do today. And it's not easy to do at first, but once you do that, it's much easier to knock on the next door, to pick up the phone again, to shake hands with the next person.
Do you think that's a skill that can be learned, or it's just something you have to develop by trial and error?
I think you can learn it. I think some people, you mentioned thick skin, maybe some people are more naturally thick skinned and it just water off a duck's back and they're never bothered about it. I think it is something, I think resilience is something that you can learn, develop, and grow at. So, I mean, if you think when we're kids, we're not like resilient in a lot of ways, and you learn it through experiences in life. And I think, yeah, I think it's something that can be coached. I think a lot of my coaching today is around mentality and positive attitude and the bounce back ability. I'm not sure if that's an exact word. I think it was used in the sports context, bounce back ability. So you get rejected and you're up for the next meeting and you just dust yourself down and off you go.
Right. I want to talk about the coaching you just referenced, but before we get there, maybe tell us a little bit about the moment you said to yourself, if there was a moment, or maybe it was a gradual shift of, hey, I think I'm going to make a career out of sales. This is not just, it's not just a summer internship. It's not just the job after the summer internship. This is a real thing.
I don't think it was actually in that job. It's a great question. I think when I think back, it's something I've never really analysed. But at that point, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to be selling jewellery forever, to be honest. I didn't know what other options there were. I mean, I knew there were other sales options. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to be doing. And again, didn't have any formal training. So I was winging it to a certain extent, learning something and then not repeating something I'd said previously that didn't work and really learning on the job. And I wasn't being coached or developed and in that way. So I probably wasn't still 100% convinced that, I mean, I felt I had a natural aptitude for it, but I was like, can I do this, as you say, for 30, 40, 50 years? I wasn't sure probably at that point in time when I was still in my mid-20s.
Okay, what was that point in time where you said, "Hey, I can do this"? If you know.
No, I think I do. I think it's a great question actually, because literally never thought about this. I think it was when I took on my second job. It was in a different industry, and I was able to cross-reference some skills from there, and I was able to be successful in that a second completely different industry. And then I thought, okay, a lot of this stuff you can develop and coach and improve on. And actually, I'm really enjoying this, and I think I can do this for the next 50 years.
Amazing. It's clear you have a natural aptitude for sales, and think, I personally think that a lot of people don't know that they have that aptitude until they try it. Like you said, you weren't
Yeah.
looking for it, it happened, and wow, I'm actually really good at that. Do you think it's something that people who are unsure will discover about themselves or can develop, or some people just don't have it and then they're not going to have it?
I think some people don't have it. I mean, I think sales skills can be developed. They for sure can be developed over time. I've seen it many, many times. But I also think some people don't have the right personality. There's a lot of people saying, no, 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 I'd never do that in a million years. Overall, I'd say there's quite a low perception of what being in sales is. And there's quite a lot of, I mean, to give you an idea, after I quit my job in accounting and went into sales, my grandfather by then, was quite elderly, and my family was like, he'll be really upset if he found out you went into sales from accountancy. Like, don't tell him, it won't be good for him to hear that. So he did say to me, how's PwC? And I'll go, yeah, PwC is good. I'm not actually working there myself, but that was part of the perception. And I even know people like now who work in tech companies in sales, and they say, or their family say, or they frame it as they work as a developer because they don't want to say they work in sales because it can have negative connotations. So to
That's
circle
what I
back to your
used to do.
question, yeah. To circle back to your question, I don't think everyone can do sales, and I think there are people who haven't got the interpersonal skills, haven't got the tenacity, don't enjoy working with people enough, are more comfortable behind a laptop, are more data driven, and sales probably isn't for them.
Okay, so if you could draw a picture of what an ideal salesperson would look like, because I probably think there are people listening to this saying, would sales be a good career for me? What would that sketch look like of what type of qualities would a great salesperson have?
So I don't think there's one actual subset, but there's a lot of things that I do look for when I recruit or build sales teams. So for sure, comfortable with people. If you're not comfortable with people, and not everyone is, then it's a non-starter because you're dealing with people day in, day out, and you've got to enjoy working with people, building rapport. So someone who's got good interpersonal skills, that's someone that's tenacious and can handle rejection. You asked before about when then someone shuts the door in your face almost, and that has happened to me before. How do you react? Not everyone can react with that tenacity. So, for example, when I look to build sales teams, one of the things I'm looking for is examples of tenacity, which could be outside of sales. It could be someone who's run a triathlon. It could be someone who's played a musical instrument to a very high level. It could be someone who did ballet for used to do ballet 3 hours a day and got to the performance level or whatever it would be. So I'm often looking for something outside that will show they can repeat the same habit, they can they're disciplined, they're tenacious, they're resilient, because we're sometimes doing the same thing every day, and you've got to be able to get excited by doing that.
I think that's great advice, both for people who are thinking about sales and also maybe for people hiring their first sales hire of what to look for in a
Yeah.
candidate.
So to give you an example on that, Sari, so this is well, I mean, I've recruited people from so many different backgrounds. What one background actually that was quite relevant was I've recruited quite a few people from the sort of teaching education background, because they're effectively selling the ideas that they're teaching to their class
Interesting.
students. Social workers, because they're very good listeners. For example, I've hired social workers. They're empathetic, which is another sales quality. And then the whole tenacity, the courage, I suppose. I was once introduced to someone who was a fireman, had been a fireman for like 10 years. And someone introduced me, said, listen, he's not sure if he's thinking about doing sales, speak to him, see if he's even relevant, etc. Anyway, I spoke to this guy who was clearly very charismatic, very driven, had brilliant interpersonal skills and all the assets I'll be looking for. So I thought, okay, this guy definitely, I said to him, yeah, for sure you could work in sales. And then about a couple of days later, one of the companies I was advising saying, we're looking for like an entry-level salesperson, anyone you could recommend? I said, well, actually there is. I met this fireman a couple of days ago and I started to do his background. He stopped me straight away. He said, listen, you know, you're making fun of me. Why would I hire a fireman? That was his first reaction. So I said to him, and I spun this, I still remember this line today. I said to him, listen, this guy runs into a burning building without a second thought. He'll just run into the building, obviously to save lives, etc. He doesn't, hesitate outside. He can't. He's a fireman. He has to go straight in there. Do you think he's going to be scared to make a cold call and nervous ahead of that? He thought for a minute and goes, no, you're right, actually, you're right. And it's true, that was a transferable skill, the courage, the driving forward, etc., that made him very successful as a salesperson.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good way of looking at things, for sure. You talk a lot about cold calls. I'm wondering if you could just give a view of the sales ecosystem. Like there's the cold side, obviously, and then there are the closers. So maybe just for people who are uninitiated, especially, I think more specifically in the high tech field, because obviously jewelry sales would be a different type of sale. But let's say we're talking about the high tech world, which many people, I should say, are interested in today. What does that ecosystem look like, and where do you place yourself in there after all these years?
Great question. So I think just as a sort of a background to high-tech sales, that you'll often hear the word funnel, sales funnel. And sales is almost like a conveyor belt these days. You have the cold callers who are now called like SDR, BDR, so sales development representative, business development representative. And their job is to take a lead, either a warmer lead who's come through some sort of marketing activity, or someone who you've reached out to yourself through the phone, through email, through LinkedIn, or those are the main channels, to be honest, and brought someone who's relevant in terms of the profile of that person in the company to buy the solution, and that their company as well is a good fit normally. So there'd be an element of what they call qualification, where you would hand over that person, that lead, who was relevant for the company and keen on the product, along to the salesperson. The salesperson then takes the baton, if you like, from the SDR, the BDR, and their job is to take it from that first initial sales meeting, usually all the way through to the signed contract at the end of the deal.
Okay, and where do you see yourself in that lifeline of sales?
So now I've taken kind of a step back. I did that for many, many years. I did it for 25 years, I'd say. And now I'm more on the sort of coaching other companies how to do that, how to build the most effective system. My first couple of jobs were like face-to-face. The second job was actually selling custom-made suits, where I would be doing the cold calls and completing the sales as well. So by the time I worked for my first sort of tech company back in 2000, I was already used to closing the deals. So most of my career, I've been closing deals rather than initiating them. And now, as I say, I coach companies how to do that full end-to-end sales cycle.
Okay, so tell us about the coaching. How did you get into that?
Well, I'd worked for two tech companies where I've been part of the co-founding team and took them both from zero to exit. Um, didn't necessarily want to do a third one with all that helter-skelter crazy startup journey. But in the meantime, I felt, having built, grown, managed, trained those sales teams, I felt I had a fairly good idea of what it takes to take a company and improve the sales processes. So about 6 or 7 years ago, after the second exit and the earn-out period, etc., I decided to, along with one of my colleagues from the same company, we set up Pipe Global, which is a sales consulting, sales training agency that works with startups, with more mature companies, with professional services companies, even to help them, push through a better sales process.
Mm. And are you training their sales team or helping them with recruitment or both?
Both. It's across the board. So everyone who hires me or wants to work with me, they're always looking to obviously close more sales. And if you've got 5 million, you want to get to 10 million. If you've got zero, you need to get to 1 million. There's always that other sales milestone. There's always the sales pressure to get there quicker. So yes, you can go from 5 to 10 million in 20 years, but no one wants to do that. You've got to do it in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever it is. So everyone's always looking to refine the sales processes, or a lot of my work is initially to build the sales team, to recruit the first people, to onboard them, and build a sales playbook, like a repeatable sales process that if you follow that within reason, you should be increasing your chances to close deals.
And this is mostly with cold outreach, not with hot leads.
No, it's a combination of both. I mean, some companies are doing very, very well from marketing funnels. It depends on the industry, where they're able to channel through like a lot of warmer leads. Doesn't mean the warmer lead, I mean, the warmer leads should hopefully statistically be more likely to close, but there's still a lot of work to be done from there to getting a signed agreement. Even if you come through and said, yeah, show me a demo, unless you're particularly hot lead, there's still a lot of work to do for the salesperson.
Okay. What do you think is the best advice you can give to someone who's looking for a sales job or thinking about looking for a sales job?
I think, first of all, to speak to people in sales already, so to reach out to people through their own networks, their friends' networks, etc. Just find out what it entails. It's like we said before, it's not for everyone. Not everyone's got the right personality or skill set to be able to do it. So definitely to research it if they're going into it from scratch. And in terms of the application, I mean, sales is very much networking, outreach, rapport building. So LinkedIn's an obvious place to start building your network and to reach out to relevant people in the industry, to connect with them, to engage with them, etc. And start. When I hire salespeople, I expect them to be quite good at finishing off an interview with like, okay, I like the company, I like the setup, think I could do a good job. Like, what's the next step from here? Like, showing
Right.
some sales skills within the interview application process, even the follow-up process as well. I always look at, well, the companies I work with when we were recruiting, we're always looking at, did someone send a thank you note? Was that targeted on what we actually said there, compared to people who just sort of shake your hand and expect you to chase them?
Yeah, my grandfather taught me that in the old days. I think it's almost a dying art, but it shouldn't be because it's really a sign of who you are as a person and, how you see the relationship going, I
Yeah,
think.
I think you're right there. And also, I think that in sales as well, you need part of it. It's very rare you just do a demo and they say, send me a contract. Thank you very much.
Right.
There's a lot of follow up. There's a lot of skill is in the way you phrase it, how you approach it, how warm you are in your communication. So I'm looking for clues from the first scheduling the interview all the way through to how they're engaging after the first, second, third interview, etc.
I love that. What's that best advice you can give to a company that's looking to start a sales team? What should they be doing?
They should be looking for very hungry. That's a certain personality when you're first starting out. You need like you'll often see this word when people are looking to recruit, which is hunter mentality. And I don't necessarily think that's the right word, the right connotation, but I think the direction makes sense. You want people who are, they're looking to build something, they're looking to get their hands dirty, they're looking um, to hustle. You've got to hustle a bit in sales. I mean, don't have to do it in an aggressive way, but I'm looking for people who can hustle, who it's very different when you hire a salesperson when the company's got no clients when they've got 10,000 clients and 500 referrals and testimonials. Much easier to sell at that point, as you can imagine. So someone who's sold in that type of company doesn't necessarily mean they can be successful in an early stage company where they have to do the legwork themselves.
And do you mind if I ask like a personal question about the salary for people who would want to know? I know there's base and there's commission. Is that a standard type of thing, would you say, in tech, or it depends on the industry? What should people be looking for that they won't feel like they're getting taken advantage of?
Again, they should do comparisons. They should ask around and just see if they, when they get an offer, if it's in the ballpark. Companies always know what other companies are similar size are charging. I'm not charging or paying, so there should be some sort of ballpark figures there. I think the standard way is, as you say, a base plus commission. There are some companies that pay a base only. I think personally think it's much more incentive. It's a very incentive driven industry. So I would recommend both to companies and to salespeople themselves to go for positions where there is an incentive involved, where particularly when it's uncapped and the more successful you are, the more you earn. And some of the companies I've worked in, the salespeople are the top earners in the company, more than the top developers, more than the CEO. If they're bringing in huge amounts of revenue, they're the most valuable in certain ways to the company.
I've had a similar experience to that. What is your advice for someone who feels stuck in a job, based on your experience or based on maybe seeing people who felt stuck and you've seen them pivot? What's the best advice you can give to someone who is not sure what the next step is?
Again, I'll crowdsource. Today, there's a lot more information available online. So in the old days, if I wanted to find out, it would be the old-fashioned way of talking to a lot of people. Now you can go to various websites. You can even ask ChatGPT to say what attributes you need to be in sales, in marketing, in finance, whatever it would be. So do research, find out if it's, try and ascertain if you're not happy and stuck in a job. Is it the company, the culture, or is it what you're doing day to day? Like with me, I knew if I moved to another accountancy firm, it wouldn't solve the problem. The problem was I didn't want to do accounting. So you've got to, sometimes it could be changing environment. So you've got to try and, in a rational way, try and assess what's bothering you about the role. Again, sometimes it's people. It could be the manager leaves, a new manager comes in, and suddenly everything's back on track. At the same time, if a job isn't going well, if you're really stuck, if you've got that beginning of the week feeling where and I've had it before, where you've got like in the pits of your stomach thinking, don't know if I can do it again this week, then no one should be miserable day after day after day after day. So that's usually a warning sign, but it takes a lot of bravery sometimes to take that step, and especially what I did, like to go into the unknown where you don't know what you're earning the next week, or there's for me, it's the case that the pain of going into the accounting firm one more day was going to be greater than not knowing what I was doing the next day. So that and that's actually quite a good sales tip generally when you're trying to sell a product to someone. When the pain is greater than not acting and not paying for it, then that's what tips over the sale often.
Mm-hmm. What's the best tip you can give someone who's in sales now who wants to improve their performance?
Speak to me. Go on my courses now. I think it's there's various ways to approach that. I think obviously you always want to be improving your technical skills. Like Roger Federer, he didn't after 10 years of playing and being number one in the world say, I'm not going to practice my serve today because I know I'm pretty good at serving. I've already served like 50,000 times in my life. You've got to keep working on your skill set. So that could be like digging deeper into the industry, so you're more of an expert on cyber, on health tech, whatever your niche is. It could be, I spend a lot of time myself, because I believe in this, is reading a lot of books on human psychology, how people think, how we make decisions, because if we don't understand that element of it, how can we interpret various signals we're getting from people? So I personally I've gone very deep into that whole element of it. So I'd recommend people don't necessarily just pick up a sales book. They'll build up their skill set of a complementary skill that can help them in their career as well.
That's very good advice.
Thank you.
So you talked about just now what advice you would give to someone who's in the field. What's the advice you would give the first lesson that you coach when someone's starting in a sales career or starting to learn about a sales career? What's lesson number one that you give them?
I think it's to do with what sales is itself. Like, if you don't understand what sales is, it's hard to. I do a slight bit of theory. I don't go too much into university style theory, but what is sales? So for me, and this is not my phrase, sales is like transference of feeling. So that means you've got to believe in what you're selling. If you don't believe in what you're selling, and we see it in a regular store as well as in B2B sales, if you don't believe it, then why should I, as the prospect, the potential buyer, believe it? So you've got to be able to, you've got to really, that's, you see it often as well. People don't believe in the product they're selling, and that's why they're not selling. And they can move to another company, suddenly think, okay, this has got real value, and suddenly they're a different salesperson. So I spent a lot of time coaching people on how to understand what sales is. And a lot of what we do in that first sort of workshop, if you like, especially as part of a series, is the theory, well, not the theory, the reality that people buy from people. So what does that mean in terms of interpersonal skills, in terms of rapport building, in terms of how to approach a conversation?
I think that's excellent advice. And, just to put it really succinctly, for anyone who's looking for a sales job, it's not really the job, it's the job plus the product, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
So
Definitely.
I think that's what makes sales maybe a bit of a different beast than other industries. Uh,
Yeah.
like if you're
I'll
doing
take it.
accounting, you could do accounting for business, you can do accounting for personal, it's whatever. But it's kind of similar in a way. But if you're in sales and you don't believe in what you're selling, um, it isn't going to go as well. That's for sure.
I'll take it even further actually and say if you believe in it, but don't believe the pricing is fair or right, or then it's even there's people that believe in the product, believe in the market, believe in the industry, but you can tell that they believe that the product is priced too high. They don't believe that it's fair value. I've worked with people where I've had to get them to practice in front of a mirror to say it's $50,000 a year, and the value you get from that is, rather than it's $50,000 a year, and almost whispering it. So you can say the same sentence, the same pricing, and either I'll believe its value as a prospect, or I'll think this guy doesn't even believe what he's telling me, what you're trying to sell me for.
Excellent. That's such a good perspective. I love that. Um, we talked about this like when I spoke to you last week, but I wanted to just bring it up about the concept of a college degree and what your thoughts are on whether that's necessary both in life and specifically in this field.
Yeah, very interesting question. So over the past sort of 5, 10 years, I've moved much further away from people the idea that you have to have a college degree. I personally don't look at college degrees on CVs anymore, on resumes. I look at what they've done in the last 5, 10 years, or what their background and personality is like. I'm not fussed if someone's been to college or not. I think obviously if you want to become a lawyer, a doctor, or like my daughter, a speech therapist, you have to go to college and become an expert in that field and get your qualification. To be in sales, I don't know if 3 years university studying history or architecture or anthropology or wherever the discipline is necessarily the best grounding. On top of that, I'd say the ability, the internet has really disrupted the ability to learn things, and ChatGPT as well. We're only beginning to learn now what ChatGPT could do. I reckon you could learn more in an evening of prompting ChatGPT in certain topics than you could learn in a whole semester at university, to be honest, if you're prompting it in the right way and you're getting it to test you. There's obviously lots of online courses and videos. So I personally, I think college isn't going to exist in the same format in a few decades down the line.
I think in less than a decade, things are
Yeah,
already changing.
they
Um,
are. They are.
but since you mentioned it, how have you seen ChatGPT changing the sales funnel? Have you seen huge shifts in how people are interacting?
I think people are certainly interacting or posting on LinkedIn, or they're sending email sequences out, which is fine. I would recommend this now, using ChatGPT to customize it to a different type of buyer. So, for example, if I'm selling a product which is going to 3 different buyers, so maybe a finance buyer compared to a marketer, the message can't be the same. So I'd be prompting ChatGPT to say, this is what the product does. This is the pain point in this industry. By the way, this is going to a marketer. How would you engage that person? And by the way, I'm sending a separate thread to a finance person. It can't be the same. How would you do it differently? So for sure. And then part of the skill of ChatGPT, from having used it a while in sales myself and coached how to use it in sales, is to keep prompting it. So what
Yes.
a lot of people will do is just say, hey, build me a four email sequence, and they'll just go with the first answer that it comes back with. What I do is I might literally prompt it 10, 15, 20 times even, to keep finessing it, keep saying, no, that sentence is too long. Don't like that subject line. Please make it a bit more engaging at the end. Please tie in this element of their LinkedIn post that they had last week. And otherwise, people who are lazy at doing the outreach are just getting lazy by putting a generic prompt in. So for sure, it saves you a lot of time. For sure, it can be more effective, but you've got to know how to use it.
And that's something you teach in your course?
Correct, yeah. And even like to do with like assessing the communications you're getting back. So when you obviously loading some of those chats or email histories in and saying, oh, this person looked a bit tense here. What do you think? What did they mean by that phrase? Even if you don't necessarily go with it, just having that or a second voice. Bear in mind that this person is responsible for 500 people. They might be stressed. Is that why you think they wrote that? Does that mean that they're not keen on the product? It's just having that second voice in your head, and just getting smarter and smarter. Like obviously having projects so you can save particular projects of decision makers or people in your industry, so you can get sharper and sharper with it.
That's so interesting, because I feel one of the places ChatGPT is most lacking is in understanding human emotions. Are
I
you
think it's
saying that when you prompt it to understand the person, it does give you accurate emotional analysis?
Yeah, I found it's getting better and better and better at that. And again, it's to do with the
Cool.
quality of the prompts, and to say, like, is this person annoyed with me? Do they believe? Are they negotiating here in this sentence, or are they giving me an opportunity to just, you know, restate the value of why it's that price? And okay, it's not going to get it right every time, but I find it to be very accurate, to be honest. And it's only going to get better and sharper over time as it has more millions and millions more of these emails to analyze every day.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I never would have thought of that, honestly.
Yeah,
And I use ChatGPT a lot.
right.
Um, okay, any final thoughts you want to give about the sales world that might be useful to other people?
I mean, I personally love the sales world, as you probably see from our last 45 minutes of conversation. I can talk about it all day. I think it's a great career. I think what I love about it is you can either advance quickly, you control your own destiny much more than if you're a lawyer, where it takes X amount of years to get to partner, to get to the next level. The good salespeople, the very good salespeople, can within 1, 2, 3 years, like, be shining and excelling and getting compensated accordingly in their field. So it's up to you. If it's to be, it's up to me. In sales, you control that destiny for good and for bad. So for people who believe in themselves, who've got confidence that they can learn, pick up, and they're good with people, I think it's an incredible career to consider.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It was really interesting. A lot of valuable information there.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me on the show.